little girl. She was very much a 7th grade girl. The day before Carrie disappeared, she went to the mall with one of her best friends. They bought matching outfits that they both planned to wear to school the following day, March 16th, 1982. But that school day was anything but normal. Only a couple hours into Carrie's school day, Carrie actually got suspended for 3 days. When she was in art class, a boy threw some paint at her and it ruined her brand new outfit. So Carrie got up and she hit the boy in the face and she got suspended for that. Carrie was seen crying after this, saying that she was dreading to go home because she was afraid of getting in trouble. The school called Carrie's mom to tell her that, her daughter had gotten in trouble, she had been suspended, asked if it was okay if Carrie walked back home from school, or if she would rather come pick her daughter up. And her mother said it was okay for Carrie to walk home because it was just around the corner from the school to Carrie's house. It was only like 2 blocks. But the 13-year-old Carrie never made it home. At first, her mother thought that maybe her daughter was just stalling coming home because she was afraid of getting in trouble. But as the hours passed, she started to get really worried. Her mother called all of her friends to see if her daughter was over at any of their houses. She started to search the neighborhood. Eventually, she even went door to door asking if anyone had seen her daughter. But when there were no signs of her 13-year-old daughter, Carrie Jopic was reported missing. Like many missing children in the 80s, investigators thought that maybe Carrie had just run away. Maybe she had an older boyfriend no one knew about. Or maybe she was just afraid of getting in trouble and that's why she didn't come home and she would just be home later. Of course, they did investigate a little bit. They talked to Carrie's biological father, they talked to Carrie's stepfather, they talked to her friends, her teachers, but investigators only really had one suspect, and that was Carrie's best friend's older brother, a 17-year-old boy named John Mant. John Mant was older than Carrie. He was 17 years old. He was already in high school. He already had a criminal record. He had gone in trouble for some petty thefts. He was definitely seen as a troublemaker. Reportedly, he already made romantic passes at Carrie, and he only lived right across the street from her. And investigators heard rumors that the day that Carrie disappeared, John Mant actually skipped school with a group of other older kids, and they threw a daytime party at John Mant's house. And there were rumors that Carrie was actually at that party, and it was the last place that she was ever seen alive at. But investigators didn't have any proof that Carrie was at this party. It was all just rumors, so they brought the 17-year-old John Mant in for questioning. He denied any involvement. He lawyered up pretty fast, and since they didn't have any evidence against him, they just let him go. And then very quickly after this, the disappearance of Carrie just went cold. It really went nowhere fast. They had no leads. The case definitely just went cold, and it was like that for nearly 2 years until remains were found by a contractor that was hired to do some work on the backyard of one of Carrie's neighbors. That contractor said that the area smelled terrible and they only had to dig about 5 inches down before they came across the remains of 13-year-old Carrie Jopic. And those remains were found buried in the backyard of Carrie's best friend and Carrie's best friend's older brother, 17-year-old John Mant, who obviously was the investigator's prime suspect. So you found the body in the backyard of your prime suspect. Case closed, right? Well, no, because John Mant still denied any involvement, and he actually seemed genuinely shocked that Carrie's remains were found in the backyard. And without any evidence, they let him go again. They were able to determine that Carrie Jopic had passed away from her neck being broken, but they couldn't determine anything else since her body had been buried for almost 2 years at that point. And only a couple days after her body was found, the investigators received a tip from one of her neighbors who witnessed something really, really odd the day after her body was discovered. This neighbor actually saw another teenage boy in the middle of the night, 16-year-old Jose Ferrara, crying at Carrie's burial site. He was crying, praying, and screaming, "I'm so sorry." Does it get any more suspicious than that? 16-year-old Jose Ferrara was also seen as a troublemaker. He was an outcast. He was a big partier. He was also allegedly dabbling into the occult at this point, and he only lived 2 houses down from the backyard that Carrie's body was buried at. When he was brought into questioning, he also denied any involvement. He said that him and Carrie were just friends, so he was obviously upset about her passing, and it made him extremely depressed. After the tragic discovery of Carrie's remains, Jose Ferrara befriended her entire family. He got very close to them, but especially her mother. He went over for dinner. He was there for family game nights. Jose cried with Carrie's mother. He mourned with her. He grieved with her. And they did that for over 30 years. They became lifelong friends. They had a lifelong bond after Carrie's passing. And as for Carrie and her murder, this is really going to upset you, but her murder went unsolved and cold for over 30 years. Until 33 years after Carrie Jopic was killed, on October 11th, 2015, around 7 a.m., a call came into the local news station, and on the other end was a man who coldly and calmly said, "I'm ready to confess to a murder." And on the other line of that call was now the 50-year-old Jose Ferrara. He not only confessed to the news station, but he also called a crisis hotline and his estranged wife to confess to all of them that he had been the one to kill Carrie Jopic, and all of them contacted the police to report Jose's confession. When Jose was brought in by police, he was very polite, very cooperative. He made a full confession. He told them that the day that Carrie died, there was a party at Joe Mant's house, and he was there along with a bunch of older people, drinking and using substances. And Carrie had just gotten suspended. She was walking home, but she was nervous about being in trouble. She was trying to stall going home, and as she was walking home, she heard the music and all the noise coming from Joe Mant's house, so she just walked into the party. Her and Jose got to chatting. He offered her, she wanted to garden with him, and then after a little bit, he asked her if she wanted to go down to the basement with him and hook up. According to the 17-year-old Jose, the 13-year-old Carrie agreed to go to the basement to hook up with them, but as they started walking towards the staircase, she decided that maybe they shouldn't, and she actually said to him that she didn't think it was going to be a good idea. While the two of them are standing at the top of the staircase, Jose, who I guess didn't want to take the rejection or no for an answer, started to get really aggressive with the 13-year-old girl. He started screaming at her that they were going downstairs. He tried to push her to go down the stairs, and she actually fell down the stairs from Jose pushing her. And on her way down the stairs, Carrie Jopic broke her neck, which killed her instantly. Jose claims that he did not know that Carrie died right away. He thought that she just hit her head and it, knocked her unconscious. So in his own words, he decided to seize the opportunity and have his way with her. It wasn't until after he was finished that he realized that Carrie was not breathing. He says he panicked. So as the party is going on upstairs, he dragged Carrie Jopic's body into the backyard where he digged a shallow grave and buried her. And ever since that night, Jose claimed that the spirit of Carrie Jopic haunted him every single day for 30 years until he couldn't take it anymore and he had to confess. But even though he claims that her spirit was haunting him until he confessed, he then tried to plead not guilty during his trial, saying that the entire thing was an accident. And since the investigation was handled so poorly and so much time had passed, and since there was no physical evidence, they were not confident that they were going to be able to make a conviction stick. They actually offered him a plea deal. And the plea deal was 7 years in prison if Jose pled guilty to second-degree SA. It means he was never even officially charged in the death of Carrie, but he did agree to this. And he was released only 5 years later in 2022, which is just absolutely disgusting. That just horrifies me. He's out right now. He only had to serve 5 years, and Carrie Jopic got a death sentence. From what I can see, Jose Ferrara is still living in Milwaukee, and he has registered as an SA offender. My heart really goes out to Carrie Jopic's family and her friends. I'm happy that they have some kind of closure. Carrie got, some kind of justice. But, my thoughts really go with her mother, who blamed herself for 30 years for her daughter's death because she didn't go pick her daughter up. And she grieved and mourned with the man who took her daughter's life. Could you even begin to process that betrayal? I'm really interested to get your guys' thoughts on this case. I found it really interesting, and it's actually not the only case where a killer has believed that they're being haunted by the person that they killed. Definitely going to be scrolling through all of your guys' comments on this one. Do you think it's possible that Carrie's spirit was haunting Jose, driving him mad until he confessed? Or do you think that this was his way of dealing with his guilty conscience? Definitely let me know all your thoughts in the comments. While you're there, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another video.